Pinalipas sila ni Mateo ang sumunod na mga araw sa pamamasyal. They went window shopping at Town, shared a few pints of bombers while listening to Irish music at a local pub. They strolled along the shores of Dingle Bay and had witnessed a traditional Irish wedding that same afternoon. They took a ferry to the Great Blasket Island. Nilibot nila ang abandonadong village na naging tirahan ng ilang pamosong Irish writers. They got acquainted with Fungi the dolphin and visited Galaros Oratory, isang lumang simbahan na yari sa pinagpatong-patong na bato. Sa bawat gabing umuwi sila sa farmhouse, they were both exhausted but happy. The fourth day, they rented bikes and followed Sleehead Drive from Ventry. After an hour of rest, admiring the view from the beach, they agreed to get lost. They ventured off R559 at tinahak ang bawat nakikipotadaang nakikita nila. Mas masarap palang maglibot, lalo't wala silang ideya kung saan lugar sila papadpad. They found themselves barricaded by a herd of cows on a narrow street somewhere in Dunkin. Para silang nagpapatintero as they maneuvered between cattle and cow dungs. Just barely past the barricade, Mateo lost his footing and landed butt first on a fresh lump. Napangiwi siya at hindi napigilang bumunghalit ng tawa. Nakahanap sila ng maliit na pond kung saan nilinis ng binata ang sarili. Inabutan sila ng malakas na ulan habang hinahanap nilang daan pabalik sa farmhouse. It took them 2 hours to finally venture back to R559. By the time they got home, they were soaking wet. "Mauna ka nang mag-shower," sabi ni Mateo. The interior of the house was still warm from the remnants of the fire they had left burning. Pero dahil basa siya, nakadama siya ng ginaw. Pumasok lamang siya sandali sa kanyang silid para kunin ang kanyang roba pagkatapos ay dumiretso sa shower. As Mateo worked to start a fire in her heart, he was feeling a different fire consuming him. Memories of Cassandra with her wet shirt plastered alluringly against enticing curves made him crazy with desire. 3 gabi na silang natutulog sa iisang bubong, ngunit sa magkahiwalay na kwarto. And every night, he would find himself in front of her door, fighting every urge to push it open and join her on the bed. He desired her. Hindi niya ikakaila iyon. At sa bawat oras na kasama niya ito, the desire grew deeper, evolving into something he had not felt before. Sa maikling panahon, naging isang vital part ng buhay niya ang dalaga. His pretend wife who could arouse him with just the bat of her sexy eyelashes and the innocent sway of her lips. He was dreading the day when their charade would end. Hindi nakatulong ang malakas na ulan para pahupain ang nagwawalang hormones niya sa katawan. Discarding his muddy shoes, he went up. Ang plano niya ay ang kumuha lamang din ng malinis na tuwalya. Hihintayin niyang matapos si Cassandra at pagkatapos maliligo rin siya. He was a goner nang makita niyang nakaawang ang pinto ng banyo sa dulo ng pasilyo. Hindi niya nagawang pigilan ng sarili na lumapit at sumilip. Just one peek and he was frozen. Cassandra stood naked under the showers. He groaned and Cassandra tensed from where she stood. Bago pa siya makalabas, nakalingon na ito sa gawin niya. Their eyes met. Bumuka ang bibig niya para manghingi ng apology, pero humarang na sa kanyang lalamunan ang mga salita na makita ang emosyong naglalaro sa mga mata nito. There was no fear, just a momentarily shocked followed by nervous anticipation. Ni hindi rin tirangka ng dalaga, natakpan ang kahubadan mula sa kanya. She must have been under some kind of spell. Sa halip na palabasin siya, iniunat ito ang kamay, beckoning him in silent invitation. Tinanggap niya nakaunat na kamay ni Cassandra and joined her under the shower. His one arm instantly snaked around her waist to her nape, holding her head steady. Walang kinalaman ang maligamgam na tubig na tumama sa kanyang katawan, kasabay ng paglalapat ng kanilang mga labi. "Are we going to consummate the marriage now?" he whispered with the tiniest hint of fear. Gusto niyang sumagot ng oo, pero kalabisan na iyon. He might be burning as hell for her now, but he wanted her to want him too. Want what was happening between them. "Only if you want to," pabulong na sagot niya. In his heart, he was silently praying for her not to push him away, not to deny him of the sweet pleasure that was waiting to happen. Matagal na hindi sumagot ang dalaga. Her hands remained at his hips. her fingernails digging at his skin. I want you, she cried out, and he nearly crushed her mouth with his. Have you done this before? Nakuha pa niyang itanong. They were still under the shower, pero kanina pa niya pinipihit ang knob. Cassandra's body was trapped between the tiled wall and his towering frame, his hands all over her. No, she answered. Bigla siyang napahinto. Tinitigan niya ang dalaga. Cassandra, look at me. Eyes clouded with passion stared at him. Ibig mong sabihin, you are a virgin? Was that a bad thing? Nakabawas ba yun sa kagustuhan ni Mateo na angkinin siya? Bahagyang nanginig ang mga labi niya. Nag-ulap ang mga mata niya sa nagbabantang luha. Hindi niya gustong matapos ang kaya-ayang sandali. Not with the unfamiliar tingle of desire coursing through her body. The sensations he had aroused in her thrilled her beyond anything. He might as well drown her in cold water if he decided to stop now. May pakiramdam siyang mananatili sa kanyang katawan, ang init ang likha nito. Unless he do something to satiate the continuously growing need. Tinatanong kita, Cassandra. Should she lie? Pero malalaman din naman ng binata. Yes. Pautal na sagot niya. Mateo stared at her hard, and then his features softened, lips twitching into a lazy grin. Muling bumaba ang mukha nito sa kanya. She opened her mouth to accept his kiss. Bathrooms are not for first-timers. Let me make you comfortable in bed. She squeaked when she scooped her up and brought her to his room. The purple room they both did not like. But when he joined her, all the thoughts about color vanished from her mind. A spectrum of light exploded and danced before her eyes the moment Mateo made her his to the fullest sense. It was a trip to the great beyond and back, a journey worth taking, and quite addictive too. Madaling araw pa lang, ngunit gising na gising na ang diwa ni Mateo. Every nerve and muscle in his body was aware of the soft, sweet form snuggled so close to him. Last night, they made love twice. Or was it thrice? For an inexperienced virgin, Cassandra was as insatiable as him. May bagay na sumingit sa isip niya. Hindi siya gumamit ng kondom. Maingat siya roon, but with Cassandra, napangiti siya. To hell with condoms. He wanted no barrier between their bodies, not of any sorts. Kung mabubuntis ito, then he would gladly take all the responsibilities. Bakit nga ba hindi pa nila totohanin ang pagiging mag-asawa nila? They were perfect together. He looked at the woman beside him as she slept peacefully, cheek resting over his chest, her head tilted toward his, her delectable mouth partly open. Just by looking at her, he felt his body respond. God, woman! Are you a witch? Magdamag na nilang pinagsawa ang isa't isa, and yet he could not get enough. Cassandra stared and slowly opened her eyes. Maaga pa, matulog ka pa. Anong plano mong gawin mamaya? It was their last day at the farmhouse. Wala sa sariling pinagapang nito ang isang daliri sa kanyang panga. I'd like to... Biglang nanlaki ang mga mata ng dalaga. Titig na titig ito sa kanya. Alam niya kung bakit. He was instantly hard again. He grinned wolfishly. I'd like to stay at home. And? Hinawakan niya ang balakang nito. Cook, eat, sleep, make love? Anas nito. Make love? You mean like this? He kissed her intensely as their bodies found a familiar rhythm, and they were lost inside the labyrinth of passion once more. How was your stay? Tanong ni Don Joaquin kay Cassandra habang nakaupo ito sa may stool sa harap ng kitchen counter. Dumating ang matanda sa farmhouse a little after lunch. Hindi nila ito inaasahan at talagang nagulat sila. I cannot thank you enough, senyor. This has been the most memorable experience of my life. She glanced out at the man chopping firewood. Every calculated move, every play of corded muscles remind her to their erotic interludes. Pinamulahan siya ng mukha. How much do you love him? Bumalik ang nagliliwaliw niyang diwa sa kasalukuyan dahil sa tanong na iyon. Seryosong nakatingin sa kanya ang kausap ng lingunin niya. Excuse me? How much do you love your husband, Mateo? My husband. It felt good to the ears. Sana lamang ay totoo. I A wistful smile played across her lips. I don't think I can quantify it. My heart bursts with joy every time I'm with him. And when I see him smile, I never cease to wonder what I did right to deserve him. If love can really be measured, then mine for him would go beyond every scale. Ilang sandaling inalisa niya kung saan galing ang mga salitang iyon. It felt so real for her. Each word spoken without an ounce of pretense. She had just voiced out what she had accepted since she married Mateo. She loved him. I have no doubt, Cassandra. I can see it in your eyes. Ngumiti siya sa matanda, mixed emotions playing on her face. Ano kaya magiging reaksyon nito kapag natuklasan na isang palabas lamang ang relasyon nila? Gaano man katotoo mga salitang binitawan niya? Maybe he would never find out. She was with Mateo for the moment. Sa oras na magdesisyon si Don Joaquin, that it would be out of dreamland and back to reality for her. I married my wife when we were both 19. I had used all of my savings to buy that piece of land on top of a small hill, with a full view of the capes of Busto, Video, and Peñas, and the Cantabric Sea. It was our very first property. Don Joaquin stood up and stared outside the window, the one facing the ocean. His gaze went past the vast waters, beyond the clouds, to a time and place that once was. Our home was a hut made out of scraps, and yet we were determined to make something out of it. Imelda was very proud of what little we have accomplished together. He made a deep sigh and then glanced at her. My wife was an exceptional woman, he said proudly. I am sure she was. Hindi nakatiis na komento niya. Ramdam niya ang emosyon nito. Could picture what he saw in his mind. One determined look from those emerald green eyes, and I was reduced to melted butter. They both laughed. God must have favored us. Our buy and sell business flourished, and soon we had enough money to build us a real house. Imelda gave birth to our son there, but we lost him due to heart complications a week later. I'm sorry to hear that, she said softly. No need for pity, my dear. The old man glanced at her. My son's death and the devastating news that she can never bear a child again did not deter our spirits and lessen our love for each other. The hotel was her idea. Imelda loved taking care of people, making them feel at home. She would always serve our guests extra servings of her tortilla española for free. Needless to say, we became rich, had money to expand the business and to travel. But wherever we go, that small hotel would always be that humble hut we called home. We fell in love with Ireland and decided to retire here. But Imelda died even before it happened. Malungkot itong ngumiti. His eyes were misty when he glanced at her. You see, Cassandra, I can't give the hotel to just anyone. It is not about the money. The hotel is more than just a structure, more than a money maker. It was our dream, our home. It was our past, our memories, and our love. You want to give it to someone who understands how important memories are to some people. Tumango ito. Someone who values people and relationships more than anything else. Dagdag nito. Naalala niya si Mateo at ang totoong dahilan kung bakit desidido itong makuha ang hotel. He would fit perfectly in that category. Ngunit ayaw niyang panghimasukan ang desisyon ng matanda. Batid niyang alam nito ang ginagawa. Why this kind of test? What do you intend to accomplish? It is simple, Cassandra. I want to find out who has character. Nangunot ang noo niya kaya nagpatuloy ito. Strip a man of all the comforts money can buy and he becomes what he naturally is as a man. What he is made of, that is an entirely different matter. When you're not blinded by all the worldly possessions, you tend to look at life at a different perspective. Some will loathe the laid-back, boring environment, but a man who looks at the world with his heart, he will embrace the realities. He will find pleasure in all the simplicity. He will know what matters most. How will you know who to pick? By their smiles and the twinkle in their eyes. Namilog ang mga mata niya. Do you have someone in mind already? Of course! I have already decided since that dinner back in Carrick Pines. I just needed further proof. Malakas ang kabog ng dibdib niya. Could he be referring to Mateo? A few hours later, during dinner, Don Joaquin announced the good news. I don't know how to thank you, anas ni Mateo. Nasa labas na sila na Ninoy Aquino International Airport matapos ang ilang oras na biyahe mula Dublin hanggang Maynila. Halos hindi sila nag-uusap habang sakay ng eroplano. They just held each other, not ready yet to say their goodbyes. Cassandra, I was thinking. Pinigil ng halik ng dalaga ang nais niyang sabihin. He was about to offer her another proposition, this time a lifetime commitment. Why don't you bring me to your place? Parang ayoko pang umuwi sa amin. The subtle hint made him smile. Tumawag siya ng taxi at nagpahatid sa kanyang bachelor's pad. Hustong nailak niya ang pinto when Cassandra threw herself at him. Mabilis na hubad ang kanilang mga suot. In an instant, he was inside her, satiating his hunger. Nag-iisa na lamang si Mateo nang magising siya kinabukasan. Cassandra left with a note thanking him and telling him how she enjoyed every moment they had spent together. Sinabi rin itong hindi na niya kailangang bayaran para sa kasunduan nila at hindi na niya ito dapat na panghanapin. Beside the note was her wedding ring na ang kapares ay suot pa rin niya. Napamura siya. Padabog siyang tumayo. Hindi malaman kung paano pakikibagayan ang galit at takot na nararamdaman. Sa bawat paglunok, nalalasahan niya ang pait ng pagkawala ni Cassandra. She could not have meant it. After everything they shared, inangat niya ang telepono. May ipapahanap akong tao sa'yo, and I want you to find her before this week ends. Walang ligoy-ligoy na utos niya sa lalaking sumagot sa kabilang linya. 2 weeks, and yet it felt like yesterday when she and Mateo parted. Pinilit lamang niya ang sariling iwan ito. Kaya nga naghintay siya makatulog ang binata bago siya umalis. It tore her heart to pieces when with one last kiss and tears streaming down her eyes, she went out of his door and out of his life. Hindi na ito mawawala pa sa puso niya. She would always feel grateful for the love they have shared. Hindi man nila binibigkas sa mga salita, sapat ng kilos para maniwala siyang higit pa sa physical na relasyon ang namagitan sa kanila. Cassandra, nilingon niya ang ama. Nakangiti ito, ngunit malungkot ang mga mata. Tahimik siyang pinagmasdan ito. With her designer wedding dress, she looked splendid, pero hindi siya masaya. It's time, Iha. Mapait siyang napangiti. This is it. Daig pa niyang dadalhin sa little injection chamber. Her knees wobbled and her father had to hold her shoulders to steady her. Cass, I'm okay, Dad. Kinakabahan lang ako. He gave her a pitiful look. Don't do this, sabi nito. Alam niyang seryoso ang kanyang ama. Batid nitong hindi niya mahal si Charles, but it was already too late. God knows kung anong gagawin ng mapapangasawa niya sa matanda kapag umurong siya. Hindi niya maatim na ipahamak ito. Wala sa sariling nakapani ang puson. She prayed with all her heart for a life, Mateo seed, his child, that would make her hell more bearable. Maaga pa para malaman. Sana lamang dinggin ng Diyos ang hiling niya. We don't want to keep him waiting, she managed with a croak. Pagdating sa simbahan, halos ayaw na niyang bumaba ng kotse. The idea of being married to Charles nauseated her. Mateo watched from behind one of the church pillars. Nang sabihin sa kanya ng private investigator na ang babaeng hinahanap niya ay engaged na sa ibang lalaki. And to Charles Ocampo of all people. Nakaramdam siya ng galit. He thought Cassandra had betrayed him by not telling the truth. Mabuti na lamang at maasahan si Lance. Kumpleto ito sa impormasyon. At hindi naging mahirap sa kanya na pagtagpi-tagpiin ang lahat. Napilitan lamang si Cassandra na magpakasal kay Charles. Walang kasal na magaganap. Not if I could help it. With hands balled into fist inside his pants pocket, he took a seat. Doon sa hindi siya matatanaw ng dalawang ikakasal. The ceremony started and Mateo is tensed. He looked around. Nasa isang sulok lamang si Dave at si Lance. Handa sakaling mga ilangan siya ng backup. With a nod of his head to signal them, he stood up. Itigil ang kasal. Everyone turned in his direction. Good. Now for the dramatic entrance. You have no right to marry that woman, Charles Ocampo. Cassandra gasped when she saw him. The spark of longing and hope in her eyes made him smile. I've got you, sweetheart. I won't take him take you away from me. It was his silent message to her. Strangely, she understood. Patunay ang luhang naglandas mula sa mga mata nito. You are not invited, Mateo. I can sue you for... Nagngangalit ang mga bagang na umpisa ng groom. I can sue you for a lot more than what you have in mind. Let us try coercion for a start. He cut him off, his voice clear and firm to everyone to hear. Napansin niyang bahagyang napaatras si Charles. Nawalan din ng kulay ang mukha nito. You owe me 20 million, Charles. The same amount you used to blackmail Cassandra's father. Mateo, anong ibig mong sabihin? Bakit magkakilala kayo? Sa unang pagkakataon, nagawang magsalita ng dalaga. Nang tangkain ni Charles na hawakan ng dalaga, bigla itong pumiksi at tinulak ang lalaki. Mateo was beside her in an instant. Nakatayo na rin ang ama nito at maagap na tinabihan ng anak. I met Charles through a common friend. Sa akin galing ang 20 million na niloan niya sa daddy mo. Ang sabi niya sa akin, gagamitin niyang dagdag sa kapital sa negosyo niyang pera. I trusted him. It was a lapse in judgment on my part. Nakalimutan ko na tungkol sa perang iyon until I hired someone to track you down. Nalaman ko tungkol sa engagement ninyo. Kung ganun, wala pa talaga akong utang sa kanya dahil hindi naman nanggaling sa kanyang pera, sabi ni Mr. Lorenzo. Technically, ganoon nga po. At hindi lang yun ang ginawa niya. Ang rason kaya hindi kayo makabawi sa pagkalugi ng negosyo ninyo dahil manipulado niya mga kliyente ninyo. I won't be surprised kung malalaman kong kaya nalugi ang business ninyo in the first place ay dahil din sa kanya. He watched as all the colors drained from Charles' once arrogant face. Walang hiya ka. Bago pa siya makakilos, nagawa ng suntukin ni Cassandra ang lalaki. Para yan sa panloloko mo sa daddy ko. She shrieked, pulling the long veil from her hair and throwing it at him. Mateo winced when he saw what she did next. A loud yelp robbed Charles of his breath the moment her knee hit his crotch hard. And that is for torturing me, you bastard! Humihingal na sabi ng dalaga. Hinawakan ni Mateo ang kamay nito. Hindi dahil natatakot siyang masaktan ito ni Charles. At her present rage, she could kill the jerk with another knee. Gusto niyang humagalpak ng tawa. Enough, sweetheart. I'm sure he got your message. Her expression changed from fury to outright relief. Oh, Mateo! Yumakap ito sa kanya. They were mindless of the crowd now. Ang akala ko. She stifled a sob. Kung sinabi mo lang sa akin kaagad, hindi mo na sana naranasang maglakad sa aisle para sa lalaking yun. She grimaced. I'm sorry. He smiled and caressed her cheeks. Hindi ako papayag na ikakasal ka sa iba. You are my wife, remember? Pero, kunwari lang naman yun. It wasn't legal, but it was real for me. Anyway, decidido naman talaga akong pakasalan ka. As in? For real? Namimilog ang mga matang paniniguro nito. Yup. Kung hindi mo ako tinakasan, I would have proposed to you that morning in my pad. Oh! She looked so cute and charming. He gave in to the urge to kiss her, unmindful of the collective gasp from their audience. Mateo, maraming tao. So? He arrogantly said. Hinarap niya ang pari at kinausap. Ngumiti ito at pumayag. Ang mga bisita naman ang hinarap niya. Nagpalakpakan ng mga ito nang sabihin niyang tuloy ang kasal, only iba na ang groom. Cassandra looked delightfully around her. Wala na sa paligid si Charles at hindi na niya gustong alamin kung sinong tumutulong dito at paano itong nakaalis. Good riddance to him. She then cast a glance at her father, who gave her the thumbs up nang i-announce ni Mateo na silang dalawang ikakasal. Totoo na ang kaligayahan sa mukha nito ngayon, despite not knowing anything about her groom. There would be more than enough time for introductions later. Lastly, she shifted her gaze to her adoring groom. When did you realize that you loved me? Tanong niya. That morning, at Clontarf, when you asked me to marry you. Tumaas ang isang kilay niya. Talaga? He shrugged. Maybe not in Clontarf. It doesn't matter. Hinapit siya nito. You caught me somewhere in Ireland. Hook, line, and sinker. She jolted. Somewhere in Ireland. I like that. Ikinawit niya ang dalawang braso sa leeg nito. Ngunit bago pa siya mahalikan ng binata, tumikim ang paring nasa harapan nila. Nagtataka pa silang lumingon dito. The kiss comes after you say I do. Paalala nito. She blushed profusely. Matea's laughter echoed around, followed by the teasing one-liners from the crowd. Pwede ba nating ituloy ang kasal? Nakangiting tanong ng pare. Sabay pa silang tumango. Their wedding could not be more perfect. And months have passed and she gave birth to a beautiful girl at pinangalanan